Welcome to Of Course It's Miracles, A Course in Miracles. I am your host, Candace Johnson. Today we are going to go over frequently asked questions about A Course in Miracles. I thought I'd take a break from doing the deep dive because of the eclipse and instead focus on some of the most common questions I get and I see all over the internet about A Course in Miracles. This is going to be a fully channeled with source. So I've just written down the questions. I haven't determined or developed any answers. I thought it'd be fun to see what I could get from it. If you are enjoying this as you look through it and you feel like I missed a question or there's a question you have, please leave it in the comments and I'll do another one of these soon. So the first question that I have is, what is A Course in Miracles? And this answer is a very interesting one for me because A Course in Miracles is just one of the many paths I'm getting that Source has given us for specific people to align with the frequency of what they are saying is the new world, heaven, our original home. It's a channeled work by Jesus Christ, who acts as the bridge to Source for some people, as an ascended master, to give us a ritualistic practice that we can use to ensure that we reach our mission or our goal of enlightenment. Um, they're telling me to say this right now. There are many paths to God, there isn't just one. They're saying that Source is incredibly generous and would never have left us in the dark about how to get back home. And that when we left home, we already chose how we were going to come back. So those who are or feel like they have been called into A Course in Miracles chose that as their path prior to coming to Earth, which is why if you they're saying some of the ways that you all have, and including myself, found out about the course felt very much like a miracle or some strange, wonderful coincidence, and it was always meant to be this way. And you chose Jesus as your ascended master from another lifetime where you may have shared together. Jesus didn't just come to earth once, he came to earth as Jesus, but he too has incarnated more than one time. And each of us may have had some incarnation with him and made the agreement outside of earth that this is how we were going to reach enlightenment. Something else to add is that there is the teacher's manual, which includes text as well as daily lessons, or you could just have the daily lessons. And what you have is what you're supposed to have. So don't freak out. But if you feel called to get the teacher's manual, you should. The teacher's manual acts as the catalyst to answer most of the questions in the day-to-day lessons so that you kind of know why you're doing and what you're going for. And all of it is light code that comes off as just text, but is actually downloading more information behind the words. They're saying if you've ever listened to channelers or if you have a favorite spiritual teacher that you listen to, you think you're just getting the words that the teacher is saying, but in reality, there's the actual energy that comes off of the information, and that words are the least important part of it. That there is information and energy that actually resonates from the medium, and your goal was to actually have the energetic expression around you, which would automatically unlock something for you. So, what is the main teaching of A Course in Miracles? The main teaching of A Course in Miracles is to allow you to recognize that you are more than just a body and that you are an infinite soul that came to earth to have an experience. And when you came to earth, you forgot everything. And through the approach of how earth is currently managed energetically, I'm getting that not only do we forget, even though children who are born now don't forget as much as we did, but we were programmed with false beliefs around who we are, where we came from, what's actually important on earth. And the course is here to remove those false beliefs and replace them with your true essence, which is that you are an infinite soul having a human experience based on the idea that you wanted to come to earth to have that human experience. But the moment that you decided to come to earth and left source, you automatically knew you were coming back and chose a path to get back that was already programmed into the experience. Forgiveness is one of the main teachings because the dogmatic approach of earth is to make us believe that we are less than and that we are bad and that we were born into sin. And while forgiveness is not necessary outside of earth, nor is it something that source even recognizes, because he never gave you anything that you needed to forgive yourself from. Forgiveness is the strategy that allows you to feel more connected to source. It's specifically for you to move forward without an energetic blockage that's keeping you from thinking you are worthy of source. Another main point of it is to know that you are a divine intelligent being who has all the power on earth as you do in heaven, as above so below, and to remind you of your initial power that you came here to experience and use. You did not come here to be weak. You came here to be strong. You did not come here to suffer. You came here to bring light. Why does the text seem so confusing? The language that we use on earth is incredibly limiting. And words on this plane have, some of them have been programmed to limit us. The reason that the course uses language the way that it does is to bypass the left side of the brain and allow the right side of the brain to activate. And with the formation of the words, it acts almost like I'm getting light language, and there is a numerical value to it that acts as a sacred geometry formation that allows more information to come in besides just the words. When you also, when you're reading it, they're giving me this idea of if you've ever sat down to read fiction, for instance, and you're really just rushing through, and you, because the way that our minds work and because our language has been programmed into our minds, we can skip words and still know what something means. We have an idea of what something means just by looking at it from not really paying attention to it. We can still get the idea of it. With the way that the language works, it's for you to slow down and to read it in a way that it has to bring in, I'm getting like a packet of information where more downloads will come to you later about that packet of information. But it is utilizing numbers, sacred geometry, and energy in a very specific format to allow you to not just practice some phrases, but it's doing more to your actual energy and removing blockages you didn't even know you had. When you're working on, let's say the first lesson is like, none of these things mean anything. Um, on a concrete level, you look around the room and you say, this chair doesn't mean anything. This couch doesn't mean anything. But as the text is being read, the information energetically is coming into the mainframe, they're saying, allowing you the experience over time to fully engage with removing the veil so that you can actually see beyond the physical form. And you could say that phrase all day and try to train your mind, but without the way that the format works for reading it, which is why they're saying, while some of you are using the audio book, and that's good for the beginning, you should really try reading the text because it brings in the information in a different way, and it's unlocking um, codes inside of us to break energetic programs that were put into us. So when you're performing the daily lessons, this next question is how to do the daily lessons. They're saying that you should find a quiet time when you can focus on the lesson, read the information that comes with the lesson. If possible, have a journal handy. Do a channeled writing, which is write down the lesson and then allow information to come to you. Having the confidence to know that your thoughts are not your thoughts, and that when you are doing the lessons, you are as close to source as you can get. So be confident as the words funnel through you. Don't block them. And days don't mean anything outside of time. If necessary, stick with the lessons for as long as you need. The more time you give it, if you feel confused, the more information they can send to you to clear up any misunderstandings. And they say they send that information in dreams. They send that information through other people. They send that information through whatever way they can engage with you in the field. Keeping it at the top of your mind every day is going to put you in a position to get more information. So they're saying, even if you just take 10 minutes to write down whatever comes to you about the lesson and about what you think it is, what you believe the lesson is trying to tell you. If you keep the notebook handy and you give yourself more quiet time, more information will come to you and more examples of that information will fulfill your understanding of the course or of the lesson. They're telling me to give my experience. So for me personally, I often get dreams about the lesson. And especially when it comes to the lessons of forgiveness, I will have a dream where I'm arguing with someone that I need to forgive. Sometimes the night before that lesson, or if I am a little bit confused about how to practice the forgiveness, I'll get even more insight into potentially why it's an illusion and what that grievance is that I can turn into a miracle. We get so bogged down with wanting to get it right, but in reality, it's almost like a blueprint or a program or a software that's downloaded into us that we can't lose, we can't miss, if we actually give ourselves the space to experience instead of, as earth beings, we often, because even of our school programming, we often think like we have to memorize something for a test to know it before we can move on to something. This is what they're saying, in that it is inevitable that the information will reach you. Your job is to be certain that you have the capability to actually learn, okay? And that it's not all going to come to you in 24 hours. There will be a click or an understanding of when you should move on, but don't expect everything to happen all at once. Some That's why you'll notice that not only do you get with the lessons, you go back and do a review, but you also get the same lessons over and over and over and over and over again so that they can ensure that you don't miss anything. So while you might need to stick with a lesson for a couple of days if you really feel confused when you read it, instead of overthinking They say clear your mind and allow the information to come to you and through you, and you'll have more success with the course. A miracle is our everyday reality when we are existing from an ascended, elevated, energetic state. It is a recognition of how perfect the form of our experience is. And it is, they're saying there's two different versions of this. So the first version of it is everyday reality from an ascended perspective. Everything is a miracle. It was built into the experience of what we were supposed to be doing when we were here. And it's a place of having full faith in how everything works from the right perspective. If you wake up or if you're in that elevated mood, the trees existing are a miracle. The sheer fact that you are able to exist in this body on earth is a miracle. And the alignment of everything, especially the stuff that you don't see, is happening constantly. It's all about us putting ourselves in a position to experience it. But a miracle is life from that elevated consciousness. You will start noticing things in your everyday waking reality. A certain bird will land in just the right spot to show you all its beauty. A butterfly will perch on your shoulder. You will notice the beauty of the environment and how it's all alive and it's all an organism, and you too are that organism, and how connected everything is. Downloads will come to you constantly. You will see through the veil and experience this higher level of reality. And then they're saying, on the other hand, a miracle is also these perfected moments of time and space where you are able to help someone else. And I am supposed to tell you about my miracle. Okay, so I've experienced two pretty profound miracles. One of them was coming home from a party. I was in an Uber with my husband, and we were heading back home. And the guy driving the Uber was a terrible driver. And I could just tell when I got in the car that he was in a mood. And I was in a really good mood myself. So I just asked how his day was going. And he was like complaining about everything. He was blaming Uber because of the way that they don't pay their people enough. And he was blaming Lyft because they're also the same way. And how he was blaming every single person for his problems. Okay. And I said, as bluntly as I could, well, you don't even like driving. You're a terrible driver. You're not good at this job. Well, why do you want to do this? Why do you need to be good at this? Why does this need to be your thing? Right. And I couldn't believe it came out of my mouth. My husband looked at me like, but it just did. And something within him broke down. I could feel his energy kind of just like shift. And he didn't go off on me. Instead, he started talking about, I said, what do you really want to do? And he started talking about how he loves programming computers. And from there, something within him opened up and something within me opened up. And we started just talking about how he could do that without a lot of money. I happened to be a consultant. I was a consultant for a small business for years. So I was just telling him all the things that he could do to get this business off the ground without having to spend money because he didn't have it. And all of a sudden, he started crying. He just broke down in tears. And he said to me, quite matter of factly, I have been praying to God for a miracle. And then I said to him, oh my God, I've been praying to God for a miracle. And we saw each other. And from there, he took out a notebook and took down every suggestion that I had. He told me about his family. He had moved here, I think, from Ecuador. and how, his rent was so expensive and he could barely take care of his family. By now, we're at the front of my house because it wasn't that long of a drive. And my husband's going to bed because we've been out all night. And he sat on my front porch with me. And it was funny because I told him to get out of the car and come onto the porch because he was just lingering. And it was like really early in the morning. I didn't want my neighbors to think this was weird. He couldn't turn his car off because it was something wrong with the car. And if he turned it off, he might not be able to turn it back on. And so I said, keep the car running. Just come sit on the porch. Let's like finish this conversation. So I sat there and I helped him plan his whole business out. And, he's really good at fixing iPhones. He knows how to build computers. We worked on a strategy with Reddit and YouTube on him putting out videos showing people how to build their own computers and how to build their own iPhones. And he gave me a hug and just thanked me. And it was just the most magical, elevated moment. After this meeting, instead of going to bed, I was just too like high in the clouds of joy. I couldn't go to sleep. So I went outside to meditate, and all of a sudden I saw this was wild. In my mind's eye, I saw a car driving towards a mountain range. And I knew immediately it was his car. And he opened the door and he got out of the car, and I saw wings on his back, and he flew up into the sky like an angel. And then I realized in that moment that was a miracle for me, not for him. He might not even exist. I don't even know if this guy really exists anymore. I saw it so clearly. And that was one of my that was my second miracle. My first miracle happened when I was at a party. Full disclosure, I was on psychedelics, but I had just started doing the course. And the course for that day was I am the light of the world. And I was saying it over and over and over again. And I was in the Hamptons with some friends. It was like a private party. And all of a sudden, people started lining up to talk to me in the weirdest way. I can't explain it to you. And I started talking to them, and I could see their full energy. And I could see the shadow of whatever their issues were right in front of them. And they would just tell me their problems. And all of a sudden, there would be this heart click between the two of us, and it would be gone. Whatever was bothering them would be gone. And they kept saying, I don't know why I keep wanting to come up to talk to you. I don't know why I keep wanting to talk to you. And I think I did this with 4 or 5 people. And I started to get very overwhelmed by this experience. But it was my first moment of understanding what healing really was. And I actually paused the course for a year and a half after that because I then went into the next, I think was about forgiveness, and I wasn't ready to forgive someone. So I really didn't feel right doing it. But I remember that experience, and it was quite significant. This idea that there was this heart to heart meeting where this click would happen, and this, our energy would almost morph into one. And as I was speaking to the people, once the click happened, we stopped talking, and it was all telepathic. Our hearts were talking to each other, and we were both crying, and it was quite magical the way that it happened. And I was doing Reiki at the time. I now have my own energy healing modality, but I was doing Reiki at the time, and I chose to let it all go because I had never done anything like that in a Reiki session. That was not the same experience that I had in this moment. And it was something that stood out to me, especially when I came back to the course, to be able to heal like that. So that those were 2 very profound miracles that I experienced. And the only reason I think I don't have more of them, I don't leave the house very often, I'll be honest with you. But there is this level of energy elevation that I was at both times that allowed for the experience to happen, where I decided that I had to focus on increasing my frequency to that state and continue with the course. So I hope that helps. So, what is the ego in A Course in Miracles? This was a very confusing one for me because studying the chakras, you think of the ego as like the sacral center, but that word I think has been used on purpose to confuse us on Earth. What they consider, or the Course considers, the ego is the false blocks we put on ourselves based on how we define our personalities on Earth. And the very interesting part about this is that they say that there are two sides to this. One side is if you were to leave Earth, you are the same person, your personality is the same. Your humor is there, your wittiness is there, your curiosity is the same, but you don't have the weight of feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you have to prove yourself, feeling like someone else can hurt you, feeling like there's a vendetta or you have something to prove or do here. So there are these two sides. One is what you would consider the good ego, or what you could even just call your personality, is this light that emanates from within you that makes you unique and authentic and allows you to shine as yourself, as like a rose or like a violet in a garden. But imagine that same violet in the garden trying to prove to you that it was the prettiest. Imagine that same violet in the garden being told that it couldn't sit next to Cosmo because because the Cosmo was racist. Imagine that same garden with that violet being told it wasn't good enough, how dull it would feel and how dull it would look. There were these They're saying that there are these masks over the illumination of who we authentically are, placed there by the constructs of how we were raised and what we were told and what we were taught. And this idea that we are bad, this idea that we are full of sin, this idea that we aren't enough, um, actually is like the illusion over the shine of who you really are. It's the false parts. So when they are trying to deconstruct the ego, it's not to remove your personality, it's to tell you that you don't have anything to worry about. You're already perfect. You don't have to go out and read 50,000 books to be the smartest person. You're already smart. You don't have to go out and buy all the expensive clothes to show people that you're better than them. You're already great. And it's like, even on that same idea, it's like getting dressed to because you feel so vibrant and alive in yourself and you want to inspire another person with your clothing is not the same as getting dressed because you feel valueless. This is where your values lie, and you want other people to think that that's how you are valued. It is such a small twitch in the idea, which is why it's so well imprinted into the programming on Earth, that it's often misused. So they're saying, when you forgive yourself for trying to improve yourself, even, you can let go of the idea that you had anything that you had to do to be perfect. When a baby is born, by the time a baby is like one, I don't even say one, I'd say like 6 months, their personality starts to come through. You can see their shine, their sass, their who they really are, without the additional layers of all of the constructs that have been placed on them. And if you can see yourself as innocent as that, that is the perfection that you are. And when they are trying to remove the idea of the ego, it is the lower vibration that is keeping you from shining. What does A Course in Miracles say about forgiveness? Okay. You are automatically forgiven for all the wrongdoings you think you have participated in. The idea that you could hurt another person or that another person could hurt you is a false reality. Everything is like a video game, and you aren't the character playing the game. Your soul is untouchable and infinite. When we allow others who happen to be mirrors of us, they are already just resonance that match with ours, to come into our reality and make us feel bad, we aren't utilizing the point of the friction and why it was placed there. There are lessons in the challenges of everyday experiences when we come across people we don't get along with. And this idea that the others should be rejected because you don't like their personality, or because they're rude to you, or because they aren't nice to you, is in reality moments of learning where you may have wanted to make another choice. And they are mirrors of the experience trying to teach you a lesson. I have a really hard time on a day-to-day basis with people who lie, who don't tell the truth all the time. And it really rubs me the wrong way. And I worked on this one for a really long time. And I could not understand how I was supposed to forgive and accept liars. And the funny thing that came to me from this experience is, if it's a mirror of who I am, this is where I was having a problem. I'm not a liar. So, like, how could that be a mirror of my reality? And even just now, like when I'm working on the camera, you can see that like the camera is flipped, probably. I don't know, it should be. But it's not the exact same image on this side of the screen as it is on the other side of the screen. And you have to think of reality having two sides of the same coin for certain energetic fields. So, on one hand, I could not stand liars, and this is the other person. The mirror or the resonance that I was sharing is, I tell too much of the truth. I am a person who will say something to someone even if they're not ready to hear it yet. And if I'm upset about someone for lying because I think that they're trying to hold something back from me, I am sharing the experience of forcing something on them. And that is the same resonance. It's two sides of the same line of energy. Okay. So it's very interesting. I've noticed this a lot, that you'll have two extremes of the same idea. I have a friend I'm not going to mention who was married to someone, and she always thought her husband was a sexual deviant. He was overtly sexual and he was doing a lot of cheating. And, she was always saying, he's gross. He's always so sexual. And then that was the mirror of her reality, because she was a prude. I can't think of another way to say it. On the opposite side, where she hadn't had sex with him or anyone in years. So on this one hand, she is not honoring her sexuality. And on this other hand, he is abusing his sexuality, but it's still the same line of not being balanced with sexuality. So there are these moments that come up with people in our lives where, when we recognize where that resonance is that we are sharing with them, I have to admit to myself that sometimes I say too much. And my point in saying too much is to try to get someone to do something else, right? Or to prove something to someone. The person that's lying is saying too little, mostly because they're not ready to face the truth. So we're both doing the same things to each other. It just is a mirrored version. It's like a flipped version. So when you have to go through and forgive someone for the things that they're doing, you have to find that expression within yourself and be very bold and look for the faults in where you feel like you are emitting this experience in its own unique way. And that is the first thing that I have to say about forgiveness. The second thing to know is each of us has our own projected reality field. Every other person in that reality field is just a projection of us from a certain level of resonance that we share. Okay. Because this is our reality field, every single person within this reality field is our responsibility. And we imprison other people constantly based on our ideas of who we think that they are. And when we go around defining other people, we put them in a box and we don't allow that person's expressions to be real fully for us. Whatever we think we see, whatever we believe we experience. So if we believe that someone is bad, if we believe that someone's a liar, if we believe that someone is seeking to harm us, we make that person the avatar for that experience. And it's from releasing and allowing them in this reality field that you are having the experience with them. When you pray for them and pray for their soul instead, you allow them to have more space in your reality field to be more than how you originally defined them. Say, let's take this pen for instance, okay? I've decided what this pen is. And the way that the energy works is everything is movement. As I perceive something, it collapses in time to take form. Okay. I've decided that this pen is blue, so this pen is blue. I've decided that this pen clicks, so this pen clicks. I've made all of the preconceived notions about what this pen is, and so it can only be this. It can only be what a pen is. If you were a baby with this pen, you might think it was food. So you might put it in your mouth. It might be something different to you. If you were never from Earth and you never saw a pen, the way that this would be defined in your reality field would be different. If you saw more energy than the 1% that we experience, you might see more in this pen than I could even see. I put all of my thoughts into this pen and I've made it this. We do this with people. We've decided that this person is bad, so we can only experience the thoughts that we had about them. When we can see people outside of the avatar of the role that they're playing on earth and know that they are an infinite being, it's not that we have to be best friends with them or even spend all of our time with them or anything like that, but we remove the bounds that we have placed on them in this reality so that they can be free to show us a new expression. And if we consider ourselves having seen this pen as new or this person as new every time we see them, instead of thinking in the back of our heads, oh God, I hope she doesn't talk about her ex-boyfriend again. Oh God, I hope she doesn't lie to me about what she did this weekend. I know she doesn't tell the truth. I've already defined who this person is by the time I saw them, right? If I allow this person to be new every single time I see them, and whatever comes to me, I might see more in the situation, or I might say, oh, wow, she's having a really hard time facing what she did this weekend. She might feel shame. Let me pray that she can get out of the situation of feeling shame instead of immediately thinking it's an attack on me. Her lying has nothing to do with me, and that is where I think we fall short, is that we take it so personally. And the forgiveness comes in because as you start doing the work, you're going to feel even heavier about the people that you judged. You're going to feel even worse about being rude to someone. You're going to feel terrible about it. And there's this level of recognizing that if it's very hard for you to do that, to not judge someone, to not be rude to someone, it must be hard for someone else to not do it as well. So there's a level of humility that comes in, and we can see that we're all just trying to have a human experience and get by. How does A Course in Miracles help me align with my purpose on earth? This is a fun one. So as you read the course and as you work on the lessons, you will be given the idea that God has a plan for you. And that plan that he has for you has already been written, and you are to get into the proper alignment to go on the journey to determine and discover that plan. And it's the idea that before you came here again, you came up with a plan and a mission of what you wanted to achieve. And as we go through the experience of reality, we get knocked off course by all kind of things, and we fall into suffering. And God doesn't want us to suffer. As you start working through the course, another version of this is a miracle. You will start noticing how every aspect of your reality thus far has led you to what you're supposed to do. And the reason that you are meant to turn your grievances into miracles, which is one of the lessons, is because the things that you thought were the worst things that happened to you were catalysts and teaching points for what you are most likely supposed to do. And you needed the experience, and you asked for the experience so that you could know to teach and give someone to inspire another person, to motivate another human being. Okay. Every single job that I had in New York, every single thing that I learned in Chicago, all of these different moments in my life, I can perfectly see how they line up to what I'm doing now. I have a holistic wellness company called Ludi Skincare, where I help women with getting their glow on with skin and holistic wellness. Prior to this, I did event planning. I have to run events. I had to learn how to build a website. I did that in college. I helped other people with their website. I was a small business consultant. I worked in an apothecary, a random job I got. Uh, I had to work in sales for years. I hated it, guys. I hated it. I'm an excellent salesperson for my own skincare now. So all of these jobs that I thought were dead end jobs where I wasn't making a lot of money, I only stayed at for a year. I was always worried about my resume. I was only supposed to be there to pick up the experience necessary. I was a nanny for years and I loved that kid, right? And that was when I decided I didn't want children, but I saw the beauty in how I could nurture other children and be a really good auntie. I have a stepdaughter now, and it's so much easier for me because number one, I was raised around children. I was a nanny and a babysitter for years. And I know that you can love a child even if it doesn't come from your womb. That was a part of my experience prior to where I am now. All of these things line up so perfectly to where I am now. And you'll notice it'll almost be like you're looping back in time to pick up something that you put down. Um, the other day, I was looking into the astrology for the upcoming eclipse, and I looked back to 2016, 2017, and we were working on this house. And my husband and I built this house. And our daughter was not living with us at the time. She was living with her mom. And I looked back at the pictures, and her room was the first room we built. It used to be a closet, a really, really big closet, but it was the first room we worked on. Like we were preparing something for her and we didn't even realize it. So I always thought I was being bumped around in life. And in reality, I was gathering up experiences to help me to where I am. And when you are given the plan, it is just going to come to you and it's going to be like, oh, that's what it was. How could I have missed it? It's that clean. And that's another place where the miracle is because, these jobs came to me through like someone may have mentioned a job. I threw my resume over here. This happened over here. And all of these different things that have come up, I never even considered that they would be working for me in my future. I was just so in the throes of life and so depressed about my experience and situation. If I had known I was picking up nuggets, I might have thought about it differently. So there is this place where if you stick with the course and you stay on the path, and you just need to stay in that elevated state. And really, I'm going to leave you with this because it's the last one. To sin is to miss the mark. That's the actual definition of the word sin. Perfection literally means to keep trying, to keep trying for the goal. It's not, there is no other version of it. If you're waking up every day trying to do better, then you are already on the right path. Okay? That's all that was necessary for you. That's all you need to do. The rest, allow source to sort out. The only part that is asked of you is to show up. It's only to show up. And that's my favorite thing about A Course in Miracles, is that it's just asking you to show up every day. And the lessons, I believe, are to keep you within a ritual so that you have the spiritual discipline required for you to show up every day. Take a break if you need a break. It can become a very overwhelming experience, but loosen the idea that you're doing something wrong. Loosen the idea that God is angry with you. He's saying, I don't even know half your troubles. It's not who I God is source is an experience that he is not a man or a woman. It is the animus and the avatar that makes life move, work, and gives us the light, right? His reflection is just love. So much love, he can't see pain. Jesus is here to be the bridge because he's had the experience on earth to allow us to get closer to source because we feel like we're so far away, even though we aren't. But no one is looking at you and judging you. No one is saying you're doing anything bad. Those are all the dogmatic lies taught to us through religion. I'm getting to say to you this last thing, that you were given this packet of love, a projection from source. Okay. You can't fuck it up, even if you think that you can. You just keep coming back to try again, but all of those are experiences. Okay. And that he has the power to turn it back into love. And there's something about this life review idea that the people that are challenges in your life, is because that was the only way you were going to get there. They tried in another version of your reality to do another way. You needed the challenge. The people that are the experience is like this because you had to hone it this way, because we've tried the experience other ways and it didn't work. If you can remember that, and that no one is here to damn you, judge you, say that you're wrong. That is our ego. That is the false reality matrix that is the world. If you can remember that, you'll get so much further. I spent so many days feeling bad about being short with my stepdaughter, or being mean to my husband, or, judging my friends, that actually just slowed me down on my progress, when I could have just simply forgiven myself and said, I'm a human. I get to make mistakes and try again tomorrow, and moved forward. So I hope this helps you. If you have any other questions that you think that I missed, or you just have any other questions, let me know and I'll be very happy to answer them. I hope you guys have a great week, a fabulous time. And I have a new website coming. I can't wait to show it to you. There's so many changes happening. I hope you listen to the energy reports. I'm shifting and changing everything, just as you probably are too. So look out for that. And until then, be blessed.